We basically saw two opposite versions of the Edmonton Oilers over the course of their game in Utah yesterday. I'll tell you what the result ultimately ended up being, and I'll talk to you as well about tonight's task for the Edmonton Oilers. But first, I'll thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Rentals.ca, who are proud supporters of Team Canada. They've been supporting our national team defend their home court in international competition, but while they've been doing that, they've been also helping thousands of Canadians find their home floor all across the country. So from coast to coast, Rentals.ca have a ton of options to find the perfect place and price for you. Their website is clean and easy to use, and you can pinpoint exactly on the map where you want to move and find all the options in your area. So find your home court with Rentals.ca. You can check out their website in the pinned comment or in the description below. Shout out to Rentals.ca for supporting our channel, for supporting Team Canada, and for helping find the best rentals across the country. The Edmonton Oilers and the Utah Hockey Club hadn't played a game yet going into yesterday's affair, and the red-hot Karel Vejmelka had to be sharp with a couple early saves, but after the first few minutes, Utah took over, and it was Alexander Kerfoot who converted on this 2-on-1 to make it 1-0. It's a giveaway in the neutral zone from McDavid that starts it, and then Bouchard can't block the pass on the way back. Calvin Pickard did prevent the game from getting out of hand after that because it was all Utah after Kerfoot's goal. Eventually, they did go up 2-0. It's Edmonton native Dylan Guenther who drives into the offensive zone. He misses the net on his rush, but he manages to recycle the puck, cycles it up top, and Juuso Välimäki's shot ends up behind Pickard. Logan Cooley bangs it home to double the lead. Troy Stecher had a grade A chance late in the first period. He was good all day long, but all in all, Utah dominated the first 20 minutes, and after one period, it was obvious that the Edmonton Oilers needed to be better. When asked about it after the game, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins said the team needed to regroup in the first intermission, saying, quote, "We just needed to get going there. We weren't playing to our standard. Sometimes you need to have a hard talk within your group." Nobody was calling each other out, nothing like that. We knew that we had to be better, and obviously we showed that in the second and the third. The lifeline came from what on paper might seem like an unlikely source, but it's the finish of somebody whose confidence is growing into what could be a role on Edmonton's second line long term. Vasily Podkolzin does really well here to fake the pass before rifling his shot through Vejmelka's 5-hole to make it 2-1 Oilers. A few minutes later, Edmonton's power play struck back with the equalizer. It's a bounce that goes their way, actually, because McDavid's pass here ends up deflecting off Ian Cole and right into the wheelhouse of Leon Draisaitl, and he scores from there to tie the game up at 2, and it was Edmonton's power play that quickly earned another chance right after it. They continued its pressure, and it seemed like the best of the opportunities had gone right here when Draisaitl couldn't convert into the vacant net, but the Oilers recycle, and it's Connor McDavid whose eventual finish is perfect. Absolutely wonderful finish from 97 to give the Oilers a 3-2 lead. Utah's third line brought them back to level, though. It's a great rush. Nick Bjugstad cuts to the middle of the ice. He's able to suck Evan Bouchard out of position before slipping the pass through to Lawson Krause, who scores to make it 3-3. For Utah, they've got a lot of offensive weapons. One of them is Nick Schmaltz, who has 17 assists this season, but he hasn't scored yet. He came so close here to getting his first goal and giving Utah the lead. It's a sweet spot from Clayton Keller to find him all the way across ice, but Pickard comes across to make a great save. Both Pickard and Vejmelka needed to stay sharp to see the rest of the third period out, and Edmonton ended up with the first chance in overtime. Vejmelka denied McDavid, but that was before Ryan Nugent-Hopkins ended up stealing the puck here off of Matias Maccelli in the defensive zone. Nugent-Hopkins darts his way forward and he manages to rip it home blocker side to give the Oilers the victory in a game that at one point looked very unlikely to bear any fruit for the Oilers. Calvin Pickard was solid and everyone else was good enough today. The top pair definitely had a below average game, but Darnell Nurse and Troy Stecher both had very much above average games to make up for it. Oilers head coach Kris Knoblauch said after the game that, quote, "We absolutely addressed that it wasn't good enough and it's very powerful when it comes from the players. So if the players are calling each other out, that's very good for them. They responded and played better. I still think we had more to play or get better at, but they know that that's not an acceptable level of play. They know they can play better than that." He's right, because Edmonton looked like two different teams last night, one of which was good enough and one of which definitely wasn't. And they'll need to be at their best tonight to beat the Colorado Avalanche, who are themselves coming off a loss yesterday. Colorado outshot Dallas 32-24, but lost 5-3, thanks in large part to Colorado's goaltending, or lack thereof. They made a move to address that today, grabbing Scott Wedgwood from Nashville, but that either means we're going to see Wedgwood play in a game for Colorado with without ever practicing with the team, which is generally not something that coaches want to do. Or we're going to see Alexander Georgiev in net for Colorado. He's the one who played last night. He was beaten 4 times on just 23 shots, and he's only had a better than .900 save percentage in one of his last 4 appearances for Colorado. Moving to Edmonton roster news, Zach Hyman remains out tonight, so the projected lineup will see Kasperi Kapanen get another shot in the top 6. He'll play with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Connor McDavid, while the hot Vasily Podkolzin sits on line 2 with Draisaitl and Connor Brown. The Nurse-Stetcher pair was really quite good in Utah last night. They'll get another go at it on the second pairing. We're going to switch lanes now because so far it looks like Frank Saravalli's report of an imminent David Jiricek trade was flat out wrong. Based on what he was saying and how he was saying it, definitely not Saravalli's worst use of the English dialect so far this season, but it seemed like a done deal that the Jiricek trade would be done. The lack of one continues to fuel speculation around the player. If you look at the Columbus Blue Jackets, it makes sense that their ask is a like-for-like player back. They want a young defenseman back for Jiricek. So when you look at their recent drafting history, they've picked forwards with their first pick in 3 of the last 4 NHL drafts. Now, Jiricek's 2022 pick is the only outlier. They do have a couple promising prospect defensemen in Denton Matejchuk and Charlie Elick, but it makes sense that if you look at the players they do have, that they're going to want the young defenseman back, and Edmonton doesn't have that. So that means in all likelihood, Edmonton's not the Jiricek destination, but it will be interesting to see what the deal ends up being, because there aren't many right-shot prospect defensemen out there around Jiricek's caliber, and even less whose teams are eager to move them. So if Columbus's ask ends up being amended, maybe that brings more teams into the mix, potentially including Edmonton. But if we've learned anything so far, nobody really knows what's coming. That's all from me today. Thanks for watching.